I wanna start in a very weird way, yeah? So let's talk as if we are like talking to each other, yeah? Like we're
Mm,
not actually recording, okay?
yeah. Okay, we're starting. I'll start. Okay.
No, I start.
I start.
Okay, you start.
Okay, you start. You start. It's okay. I will follow up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Um okay. Welcome back to No Boundaries, and this is the Who's Next series with ABD.
And Fardan.
In this series, we interview young professionals who have lived, studied, and worked in more than one country. In today's episode, we are joined by an individual who I had met in high school. He's Turkish, was born in Japan, lived half his life in the UAE, and then went back to study medicine in Ankara Yildirim Beyazıt University. Right now, he just started practicing medicine.
And that individual is Emir Arman. Hello, Emir. How are you doing?
Hi Fardan, I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So, Emir, could you tell our listeners a short introduction of yourself? Like, what do you do and where have you lived and what did you do for your bachelor's and anything else that can be interesting?
Sure. Like Abdurrahman said, I was born in Japan and then like just probably lived there like 2 months and moved to Turkey. And I think until the age of 13, I lived in Turkey and then moved to UAE, where I finished my high school, and then I moved back to Turkey to study medicine. I mean, this is pretty much about me. And now I finished my studies this year, and I'm gonna be employed in a couple of days. So that's what I'm waiting for now.
Yeah, that's great. And could you also tell experience like you have lived a certain part of your life in UAE? So could you tell us a bit about how was it in UAE and how was your high school life in UAE?
Well, when I like first moved to UAE, it was pretty tough. I didn't know any language, and that was like a huge language barrier. But I was a kid, so I like managed to learn pretty quickly, and then went on with my studies. I was pretty successful, and it was a very nice experience too. Like going into a new country, meeting new people. I mean, it definitely like added up to my personality and my experience.
Hmm. And like I guess you told you lived your part of your life in Turkey. So how was the switch from Turkey to like the lifestyle and the people? The weather could also be very drastic change, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I was like what we consider middle class in Turkey. Like, my father is like a professor in the university. So when we moved to UAE, I was like, there was of course, cultural shock. Like, it was a new country, but it was also different. It wasn't like Turkey. It was like the lifestyle was pretty luxurious, and people were different too. I mean, like at first when I like came to UAE, I found it to be like honestly not as friendly as people in Turkey. But then with time, I got used to it, and I got to know people like better, and just went home with the flow.
So, Amir, what were some of the important lessons that you learned during your high school life in the UAE?
Let's see. Like in high school in UAE, first of all, like being an outsider, okay, you always feel that you don't belong to that place, right? Because you're coming from outside, and that's what I learned. Like I learned to blend in with different people, like especially like we're talking about UAE. UAE is like a multicultural population. So it was, I think it's like the best experience you can get, like meeting new people is like UAE's like main experience for me, you know, like I got to meet many multinational people.
Yeah. I think Fadana and I have also experienced a similar thing, even in university, where people just travel from all around the world to come and study and live in the UAE. So, talking about like your life during high school, what made you decide that you wanted to be a doctor?
Okay. So to answer this question, okay, first I'll go back to my high school years, right? I was like inspired by my granddad. Okay, he loved science, right? And he didn't have enough education to become more, let's say, and he had really basic education. So I felt like really lucky to have to have high education, and so I was in love with sciences, and I said, so what can I study? Should I be like an engineer, or should I be a doctor? Should I become like a pharmacist? I said I'm gonna be like something that's gonna affect other people. You know, I want to be like helpful, right? And I want to also satisfy the inner need of me, like feeling like I'm helping other people, like directly touching to their lives. And so that's why I said, why not become a doctor? And at some point, I also wanted to study like business. And I talked to my dad. I told him like, why don't I study business? What do you think? And he told me, well, son, you know, if you want to make your own business, you don't have to study business. I mean, you can always make your business in a field that you choose. So like studying medicine will not affect your life as becoming like a businessman, right? And this just made sense to me. And I said, yeah, like let's this.
Mhm. I think what your dad said also kind of makes sense. For example, if you just study business, you'll be the one kind of running the business, but you won't know like what's happening in the business. You must always look for certain, kinds of people for like, who can do specialized work. But if you know the kind of specialized work, it's just like you have to just learn a bit of, how to do business. That can be learned by yourself. I think that was a really great advice. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you told you decided to study like general medicine. So, like, was there a reason why you chose this over dentistry, for example, which is another field? And do you have any plans of, specializing after this?
Yes, I mean, of course, I do have plans to specialize, which I plan to do it in the US. Hopefully, I'm working for that now. I want to specialize in, most probably, like right now, I think of going into internal medicine and then subspecialize in maybe cardiology, hematology, oncology, something like that. This is what I have in mind. Maybe this can change in, you know, like in future.
Yeah, like plans change and everything change, and we have to adapt. So, what made you decide, or why was the decision for studying medicine made in Turkey and not in the UAE?
First of all, I think like Turkey has to me in medical education has better universities, like better education, better patient profile, right? You're like allowed to get right on with the patients, so there are like no limits, so you can learn better because this is like you practice and learn. You can't just feed books and treat patients. So this is the number one thing. I think you have like a better education. Number two is I don't know if you remember, Abdurrahman, but to get into medicine in UAE you have to be either like a local, or you have to be like the best in the school or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. And I did finish the high school as like number one. I had like the highest marks and all that, but at the end, that didn't make sense to me studying there, like medicine. Um, so that's why I just chose Turkey over UAE, like for studying medicine.
Oh, so when you moved from the UAE to Turkey, were there any like cultural shocks or a bit of changes to like how people live in Turkey as they did in the UAE?
Well, because I lived like until the age of like, let's say 13, I lived in Turkey, so the cultural shock coming back wasn't a thing for me. But when I came back, I was like kind of feeling like homesick for the UAE, because spending my like teenage years in UAE, I made a lot of friends. I got really used to the environment, so it was really a problem in back. I did have a psychological shock, but not a cultural one. So when I did come back from like UAE, I had this feeling, now I could look at things like differently. I was looking at things like very objective, not subjective. So that's one big point like for me. They say you need to think outside the box. You also need to see outside the box, so you would be very objective about other people's ideas and stuff.
Yeah, like I guess like since you were already Turkish and you have lived certain part of your life, it wasn't that big of a culture shock. And yeah, could you tell us a bit about like how is your like kind of industrial experience? Like suppose when you're doing medicine, like is there possibility for you to do like internships, and do you get a lot of training during your course? A bit about that, like do you get to practice like sufficient amount of time during your medicine course?
I did have like 3 years of on-hands experience in Turkey, because like the education model here is like you study 3 years in the school, and in your last 3 years you do it in the hospital. So I did get like 3 years of hands-on experience, and the last year is like full hospital. They don't teach you anything else. You just be in the hospital and just practice medicine. And in my I think in my third year in the university, I did go to the US, did some research work, lab assistant, because my brother, he lives there. He's a doctor in the US. And in my last year, yeah, in the fifth, at the like end of the fifth year, I also went to the US for like 2 months of internship, 1 month in internal medicine, and 1 month in transplant. So I did have a lot of hands-on experience. I did spend my summers also like working.
Okay, that looks like almost like close to half of your medicine. Like you spend a lot of time doing practical stuff, which I think is a lot more important because in the end you're gonna treat people, and like as you said, you can't learn it from books. I think you would made a right choice of
Yeah, definitely.
doing your medicine in Turkey and not in UAE.
Yeah, I also like have friends in UAE who study medicine, and yeah, definitely that's a problem. You're not able to touch the patients. Like what I mean by touch, you can't treat them, you can't examine patients, and that's a problem. You do learn this by treating the patients as whole.
Yeah. And like I guess since you were like originally Turkish, when you moved back, like you were easy to adjust. But what do you think of people? Like, did you see any international students who did medicine? Like, how did they cope up? Like, did they have problems with language or integrating? Like, what was your experience about that? Like, do you know someone like that?
Yeah, like my university had a lot of international students. Okay, so and I also did study my medicine in English language. So like I think we had like in my year, we had like 40 students from abroad. And most of them, I have to say, most of them like struggled. And they like, I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but maybe 90% of them failed at some point. Maybe in the first year, maybe in the second year, maybe in the third year. But some of them managed, and they even learned the Turkish language because, after the third year, you have to learn the language because you're treating patients, you're talking to patients, taking notes. So, yeah, I've seen my friends struggle a lot, like after the third year, especially like with the language. But I think I think they should have learned the language because they knew what was coming, right?
So it's kind of like, I think they say in the university, like when you enroll in that, you have to learn the Turkish language.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, let's take for example, let's say you're in Germany, right? Like you're gonna treat patients who speak German. If you're in Turkey, you're gonna treat patients who speak Turkish. It's like common sense, right? You have to learn the language if you're working somewhere.
So, Amir, from your experience in like university and from your internship experiences, if your advice can reach millions of people, what is something that you would like to say?
Well, first of all, I would advise people to start young and early. Anything you do, I mean, don't say, I'm going to do this like next year, I'm going to do this the coming week. No, I mean, it's always good to start on point somehow, like, don't wait for it. And do this when you're like young and take the advice of people who have experienced, who have walked the paths like you're trying to walk now. And because you only get experience, like once you live through that thing. I mean, that would be my advice. Start young, start early, and also learn from other people's experiences.
Yeah, I think I agree because like when you start young, you have room for mistakes and you have room for learning and like you just have time and you're young, you have a lot of energy to like do anything that you like set your mind to.
Right? I mean, you can make mistakes, but still have time to, recover and make up for that mistake. But if you're like old, you might give up. You might say, I don't have time to make another mistake, so I'll just do what I have, just work with what I have. But if you're young, you can use the time and maybe just do it, like just give it another try.
Now, Emil, since you're a person who's also interested in like business and management, I think you look at like what's happening in this world and you saw what happened last couple of months with like COVID-19 and Corona. Where do you think the world is heading with regards to like new procedures or new processes in medicine or in general?
Well, yes, I am very interested in like business and the future, how it's gonna be. First of all, the coronavirus thing, right? It did like hit us very hard. It was something that we didn't expect to be like this huge, right? We would only read about these things in the books, like the old famines and all these diseases, in the past. But now it did happen to us, and we saw its effects. We saw how the economy, how the governments were affected. And in regards to that, I think now in the future, like people are moving towards digitalization faster than we expected it to be. Like we already knew this is called like the digital era, but now we're just moving at a fast pace. Because even like now I live in Turkey, I look at the companies and how they reacted to this situation. Now I see that a lot of markets, like shopping places, now they're doing delivery to the houses, and this is just one effect I can just think of right now. They just deliver to your home with cars, with like motorbikes. you know this is one thing, and other thing is a lot of shops now are doing their like sales like online. They all have like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You can just contact them and just ask about their products and buy their products possibly. And also education wise, all the world just moved like towards like online education now. And I think also this year we're going to see a lot of online education too, because the virus, I don't think it's going to end like soon. I mean, anything I think of is just now digital, like schools, workplaces, a lot of people working from home. I don't know. What do you think about this, man?
To be honest, I just read an article today about how I think in the US, $91 billion were saved in like commuting, just commuting from your home to the workplace. And yeah,
Wow.
it's a huge number.
And there's also gonna be like even greenhouse gases, right? Because a lot of them still use like gasoline cars. So
Yeah.
if it's 91 billion, then it's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot of greenhouse gases also saved. So like, yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, look
I
at
don't.
Germany. What happened since the start of Corona? It's just like transferred most of its coal and petroleum like processes to like renewable energy, and it happened really, really fast. To the point that even Germans they're surprised that it happened so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did happen so fast, and it hit us like really hard, like seriously. Now I think a lot of governments, like the whole world, is now um seeing this, and they probably will take they already are taking action, but they're going to take even uh like more action into making probably like the workplaces and the marketplace, everything. I think they're gonna change it. Like the system's gonna
Yeah.
change.
And I don't know if Emir knows, like I live in Sweden, like even here, like, we don't have we don't have a lot of hospitals, a lot of, doctors to take care of the, like, the patients. So this was something already there. Like you could call them and through video chat, you could say the symptoms, and if they could diagnose it through that, then it's well and good. If not, they would recommend you to go to the nearest place. So this technique like this started working a lot during the COVID, because people started calling and telling their symptoms, and then there was like a head nurse or someone on the other side who then decides whether it is COVID or not. And a lot of that started picking up a lot in Sweden. I've seen it over here.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty smart idea. Like you're keeping people from like going around, affecting other people. You're actually limiting those people at home, so they will just contact you with video call. I mean, that's pretty smart.
Yeah. They even told, like, if you think that you have the symptoms, you just try to call and inform us. Don't directly come to the hospital. Like if the person is like very serious, then they would come, like bring an ambulance and then take them in a proper manner. Because I feel most of the people get infected by just going to the hospital.
Hmm. Yeah. In Turkey also, I think we have like a call center where you can call and talk to someone about your symptoms, and they'll just get back to you whether you should come visit the clinics or not. I mean, yeah, this is one like physical effect that we can see today. So I think I want to add something to this. Like I think that's why people are now on the verge of choosing jobs, like joining universities. I think they should like choose wisely what they want to do, because if things are getting more digital and we're using like more robots and artificial intelligence, I mean, a lot of jobs will, like they'll just go extinct. We're not going to see those jobs anymore. Like we'll probably see um some new jobs, some with weird names, so they should choose wisely.
Yeah. Like we have seen some sort of professions like that, like, back few years ago, like, there used to be someone on a helicopter, like taking videos. Now the helicopter pilot lost the job, the cameraman also lost the job, and you just have drones that they could take, like, pretty amazing videos
Right.
from that high. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was nice talking to you, Amir. Like we heard a lot of interesting topics, and good luck with your new job. I hope you could satisfy your inner soul, I guess, if you want to call that. And thank you so much for coming on the Who Is Next series. And listeners, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And you can get in touch with Amir if you want to have some nice discussions. And thank you for listening. And we hope that the coming episode will be insightful. Would you like to say anything else, Amir, before we end?
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for inviting me in for this program, and I hope the best for everyone. And yeah, that's it. Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah, so just before we end, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel to get all the updates. And please join our Discord channel as well. Thank you.